I'm sure most of you guys watching this have heard of Germany during World War II being referred to as the Third Reich, but some of you may be wondering what Reich means and why it's the third one. No? Well, whatever. So Reich is like a German term that means something like realm. Some people translate it as empire, but that's not really that accurate because for one, countries like France and Austria in German have Reich at the end of their name, and two, even during Germany's democratic period between the world wars, it was still officially referred to as the German Reich. So while the term doesn't necessarily indicate imperialism or autocracy, it was removed from modern Germany's official name to avoid any of the stigma associated with it because of that special time in history. Now that we've covered what Reich itself means, we can talk about what each Reich is referring to. The First Reich is what we know as the Holy Roman Empire, and was established in 800 by Charlemagne in an attempt by the Pope to recreate the fallen Western Roman Empire by crowning a new emperor. After some time, Charlemagne's empire split between three different parts: the western part, which became France, and the eastern part, which became what we really know as the Holy Roman Empire. The empire was actually more of a confederation of small German kingdoms, ruled by kings, princes, and bishops, all under the supposed jurisdiction of the emperor. At first, the emperor actually had some relevance, but over time they got weaker, until eventually there would be periods where kingdoms within the empire would fight each other and the emperor, and there wasn't anything he could really do about it. Eventually, the whole thing came to an end in the early 1800s, when Francis, the emperor at the time, dissolved it, because he had Napoleon on him. At some point, it came to be the case that the Holy Roman Emperor was also from the same house as the one that ruled Austria, making Austria be seen as something like the leader of all the German kingdoms. But by the early 1800s, as Napoleon was approaching Austria, because he's at war with them, he managed to get many kingdoms to join this thing he just made up called the Confederation on the Rhine, which is like the Holy Roman Empire, except it wasn't, and Napoleon was in charge. So Francis let the real empire go, and kept his title as the Emperor of Austria. So that's how the First Reich ended. The Second Reich refers to what is now called the German Empire that fought in World War I. So right after Napoleon was defeated, the small kingdoms in the Confederation joined up with Prussia, a large German kingdom, and Austria to form the German Confederation. This was like a loose association of German states that didn't really do anything and made the German nationalists in the chat thirsty. So in 1848, when a whole bunch of liberal revolutions swept through Europe, the German nationalists tried to turn the German Confederation into an actual state. The problem with this was that the two largest German states, Prussia and Austria, each had some territory that wasn't German, like Poland for Prussia and Hungary for Austria. This was manageable in the case of Prussia, because at the end of the day, most of the country was still German, but for the Austrian Empire, being part of a larger German state was unacceptable, seen as ethnic Germans were actually a minority. The Austrian Emperor was also the King of Hungary, and they understood that adding their kingdom to a German state would be a problem for both their non-German subjects and for their would-be German subjects in the other kingdoms. But the Austrian Emperor didn't want to give up Hungary, and instead chose to keep the loose confederation going, which only included the real Austrian part of the empire. The German nationalists tried to get the Prussian king to serve as the first German emperor, but the plan fell through as the revolutions were put down. However, Prussia was interested in leading a German nation, and a couple decades later in the 1860s, they fought a war with Austria in order to replace the loose German Confederation with a stronger union without the Austrians. And they managed to win and make a new North German Confederation, while the southern German states didn't want to join. A source of tension between the North and the South is that the northern states tended to be Protestant like Prussia, while the southern states were Catholic like Austria, and thus more closely aligned. Also, the southern German states were linguistically and culturally closer to Austria anyway, so they tended to side with them. This changed in the 1870s when Prussia went to war with France and won, getting the southern German kingdoms to join the Confederacy and making it a state, and then naming the Prussian king the new German emperor. This is what is known as the Second Reich, and it lasted until 1918, when, in the midst of losing World War I, the German government was overthrown by Republican elements and surrendered portions of land for a peace agreement. From 1918 to 1930s, Germany was a liberal democracy, and at this point, while union with Austria was more practical, seeing as the Austrian Empire collapsed as well, leaving just German Austria, the allies of World War I, aka Germany and Austria's ops, forbade the two from uniting because they didn't want a German state to be too powerful. So in the meantime, just like in the late 1800s, Austrian nationalists coped by saying they had a unique Catholic identity that might be threatened by union with Protestant Germany. Sure thing, buddy. Then along came Mustache Man Adolf, who rose to power and ended democracy in Germany, leading to what his party called the Third Reich. While researching for this video, I learned that the term Third Reich was only really used by German authorities for like a year before being discouraged. They preferred their new country to be called the Greater German Reich, or the Thousand-Year Reich. Adolf himself was from Austria, and managed to unite Germany with them, fulfilling the dreams of German nationalists from 100 years ago. But then, as we all know, that thousand-year thing didn't exactly pan out. And once again, Germany and Austria were separated, and also once again banned by law from uniting. And now the term Reich by itself is kind of a no-no term, and the Fourth Reich is used more as a criticism of modern politics in any given country, or as a fearful prediction